All right, and yes, and welcome into the next edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We are back in studio after Week 15 in the NFL, and unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure there's what's a week in the NFL without another controversy or two.
Yeah, there's been a few exciting mishaps in the NFL.
Mishaps. That's an interesting way to put it. Mishaps. You know, depending on which side of the bet or side of the fandom you're on, you're either really, really happy or really, really pissed off about a couple of the games that happened on Sunday. Let's start with the obvious of note is the catch or non-catch by the Pittsburgh Steelers tight end Jesse James, which subsequently caused the Steelers to lose the game to the Patriots 27-24. And what were your thoughts on what transpired in that game?
Oh, I was down at the Strip at work kind of watching it, and I did see somebody that had the Patriots rip up his ticket in that process.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Never rip your ticket, especially in the NFL. Never, ever rip your ticket.
You only ripped it once.
Unless you're a Seattle backer this week. You probably never, ever never, ever rip your ticket.
Yeah, that was pretty beat down on that.
Yeah, that was unexpected. I thought I had the Rams -1 on the ticket, but I can definitely tell you I didn't foresee the Rams minus 34.5.
No,
that was gross.
That was abysmal to be a home game for Seattle.
Yeah, sometimes Russell Wilson can't do it all, and yesterday, was not one of those days where he was super Russ.
Yeah, if any team's used to being beat like that, it's usually the Rams. So.
And what about the index card situation in Oakland?
That was a very odd situation in my mind.
According to the rules maker, that's what they do. If you can't accurately determine, you stick an index card.
I heard to see if one other account of the situation a couple of years ago. I can't remember exactly what game, but a ref had a credit card in his pocket and did the same situation.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that. I guess the referee post game said that he'd already known it was a first down. He was just doing that for confirmation. Obviously, plays like that. I guess there are rules in place, but plays like that always create the shady nature and the shady image of what sports and specifically the NFL have become.
Yeah, he also, I think, did it for publicity. He kind of smirked when he was doing it.
Yeah, you saw that too, right? Yeah. He was like, he had that kind of like smug-ass look on his face, like, here we go, ready? And bam, first down.
Yep.
That was pretty funny. I noticed that too. I don't know if a lot of people noticed that, but that was a unique situation. But like I said, wild weekend in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers came back, and I guess he could not save Green Bay's season, and they went down to Carolina and got beat.
Yeah, what made it interesting at the end is they got a onside kick recovery and made things a little interesting.
Yeah, unfortunately, at the end of the game, they did not have 32 points to Carolina's 31, and now they've all but eliminated themselves from playoff contention.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was rooting for Green Bay to keep Lions in the hunt a little better, but still in the hunt.
So now with them losing that game, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they are eliminated from playoff contention at this point. Yes, so they are eliminated. So they are 6-7 or 7-7. Excuse me, 7-7.
7-7.
Yeah, 7-7, eliminated from playoff contention. If you're Mike McCarthy, do you sit Rodgers for the last two games, knowing that he's not 100% healthy, even based on his performance yesterday?
If I'm Mike McCarthy, I would sit him. I would put Hundley in, either keep him as your backup, or maybe exercise a trade opinion and try and get something for him.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Brett Hundley's got to be playing the last few games. I would imagine Mike McCarthy's job is safe. Obviously, that's never a guarantee in the NFL, but I would imagine his job is safe for next year.
I would assume so as well, but you never know with the NFL. It's cutthroat situations sometimes.
Yeah, I think you got to go with Hundley. Sit Aaron Rodgers down.
Yeah,
get him ready for next year. Because,
fully health.
Yeah, I was listening to the radio on the way home from the hockey game yesterday, and people were saying, hey, you're paying him $25 million. He needs to be in there. I'm paying good money for a ticket, but I think smart Packer fans realize this is a long-term decision, and if he gets hurt, a more serious injury, it could keep him out in 2018 when, the slate's clean again. They're not eliminated from playoff contention in 2018. Right now they are, and it doesn't make any sense for your $25 million man to be out on the field.
Yeah, you're looking for next season. You're not looking for the next 2 games of this year.
Yeah, so I get the whole situation with, wanting the best players on the field, wanting to have, the most marketable, guys out there. But I think smart money knows that it's time to sit him down.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of sitting down or stepping down, that would be Marvin Lewis is going to be leaving the Bengals after, 15 seasons?
Yeah, right around there.
With 0 playoff wins. This guy should have been left the Bengals a long time ago. Yeah. But, kudos to him for keeping his job. He wasn't a terrible head coach. He just seemed to be in terrible positions a lot in his tenure. His teams made the playoffs a lot. A lot of times they were on a road game, on the playoffs in the wild card and got beat. Back in the day, they had Carson Palmer against the Steelers. He ended up tearing his knee up in a playoff game.
Yes.
So this guy just seems to be on the wrong side of the stick in a lot of that. And I think his tenure in Cincinnati was definitely a roller coaster. But in Cincinnati history, is one of the better coaches of Bengal lore.
Yeah, he's definitely a good coach with that team going forward, and just some unfortunate situation. He had a few ups, a few downs, more downs, I would say, but.
Yeah, so he became the head coach in 2003.
Yes.
Basically made the playoffs in 2005 and 7 subsequently, or 6 more after 2005. Never won a game, which, like I said, never really got past the wild card spot. Never really had a first round bye. So, while he's done a lot for the franchise, I would say the 15 years. What would you give him on a report card?
With the team situation and all that, I would give him right around, I would say like a B minus. I think he had a lot of unfortunate situations, especially come playoff time, with like the Carson Palmer getting injured and situations like that. Never really had a well-rounded team around him. Is either really good offensively with a run game, really good offensively with a good quarterback.
I feel like he had 2 good quarterbacks during his time there, and it just never materialized.
Yeah. In that mind, I still give him B minus. I think he held the locker room accountable for all their mishaps and all that. Was straight to the punch, and
I think he was a victim of a lot of over expectation also in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's not getting fired. Let's put it that way. He's not getting fired. It's just his contract's up, and I think he realizes he's probably not going to be retained. So
he's firing himself pretty much.
The smart thing to do is to leave and see maybe if the only thing he would really have strategy-wise to stay in Cincinnati is to have the Bengals chase him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by taking this step, he's either going to say, look, they're either going to accept my decision to leave and let me walk away, and they'll go in a different direction, or they're going to chase me if they want me.
Yeah.
Which actually gives him the leverage. So I don't think they're going to.
I don't see them doing it either. I see them getting kind of a mediocre coach and maybe building up from there.
Well, the talk is bringing Hugh Jackson back to Cincinnati from Cleveland. I don't know if Hugh showed the ability to be a head coach based on his time in Cleveland, but he does know the guys in Cincinnati, so that may be a better fit for him. I don't know. We'll see. The new GM in Cleveland is looking for a fresh start, even though he's given Hugh a little bit of a vote of confidence. I don't know. We'll see. That could be an interesting spot.
Yeah. I'm reading reports, and it says Lewis might be a possible head coach next year, or maybe even possible GM candidate.
I could see him in a GM. I can't see anybody wanting him as a head coach. No disrespect to him. I don't think he's a bad head coach. I just think he's gone stale. His name has gone stale since, he's been a coach for 14 years now.
15, yeah.
15 years in Cincinnati, and when he was a coordinator in Baltimore, his name was all hot off the press, but I think his ability to lead a team is unquestioned, but I just don't know if he's the hot name right now.
No, I think he would be a good fit for some of the teams, but I don't think he would be like a stick-out stud of a head coach.
I can tell you what, though, they definitely aren't a laughing stock franchise anymore like they used to be when he first took over.
Yeah, they were looking abysmal like the Lions back in the last decade.
3 ties in 15 years. That's crazy.
That's very impressive.
3 ties. I don't know if it's impressive, but it's just an interesting
stat.
Yeah, he won 4 North titles.
Yeah, he was the second longest tenured head coach in the NFL. Of course, that's behind Bill Belichick. So,
yeah, nobody sticks like these guys do.
No.
And Marvin Lewis shouldn't have. There was a few times that he should have been out of there, but
Bengals.
Nobody sticks like Belichick sticks.
Yeah, very true.
So, well, whatever he decides to do, we wish Marvin Lewis well.
Yeah.
Speaking of stepping down, we talked about this a little bit on one of the podcasts before. Goodell signed a new contract to keep him in the commissioner position through 2024.
Correct.
Or 2023, one of the two. But the new reports have said that this will be his last contract. So, for all of you Goodell haters, there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. Through 2024, he'll be the NFL commissioner, and he's expected to retire afterwards.
What do you think about Goodell? I mean, I know we talked about Goodell's report. I don't want to put report card on it again, but...
I think he did a pretty well job so far as a commissioner. Just with instituting suspensions and fines, I think he just needs to step down off of that, hand it to somebody else. And
yeah, that's my thing too. And the first thing everybody thinks when they ask me how Goodell is, I say Goodell has made the league as popular as ever and as profitable as ever. I mean, everybody's like, well, you're a Patriots fan, blah, blah, blah. You should be so pissed at him. I'm like, look, it's over. It's done with. It's in the past. It's a witch hunt.
Yeah.
We're not the only team where this witch hunt has affected.
Yeah.
See Ezekiel Elliott,
Yeah. Yeah, he'll be back next week, so.
I think his ability to handle the judgments on punishment has been a little short-sighted, and I think that hopefully he'll get rid of that in the next collective bargaining agreement, but knowing Roger Goodell, I highly doubt that's going to happen, but the NFLPA will probably address that here in the next few.
Yes.
Some candidates that have come up, whether it be from off-the-wall candidates to legitimate candidates. First candidate I saw was Peyton Manning for NFL commissioner. Yeah, that's exactly the face I made when I saw that. I was like, but
really?
He's got the pedigree. He's not an idiot. He's a smart guy on and off the field. I think he knows what would benefit the league.
Yes, and he's also somewhat of a businessman too.
Yeah, and in 2024 he'll have been almost a decade out of the league.
Yeah.
So I think he can take himself away from, just being a player's aspect to actually, and I'm sure the PA would love that.
Oh yeah, I think he'd be a well-rounded fit. He's got a good football IQ. I think he knows enough business to benefit the league and maybe potentially build it up again, or up to spots where we had never even seen before.
Yeah, another candidate that might be a little bit of a stretch was actually Bill Cowher, former Steelers coach. Currently, I think he's with CBS. I guess the same mantra is, if not a player, then I guess why not a head coach? Bill Cowher has a lot of experience working with Dan Rooney and the Rooney family. Obviously in Pittsburgh, obviously he's worked with players because he was a head coach. He's a pretty respectable figure, but I think the chances of him taking that job or even being offered that job are pretty slim. Any thoughts on Bill?
I don't know. I'd rather almost see Peyton Manning take over compared to Bill, but I don't know. I think that'll be in the discussion for the next 5 years or so, and we'll have a good grasp of who's actually a likely candidate about a year or two before Goodell's last season. It'll be March 2024 is when his contract ends.
Another candidate, a little bit of a stretch, but would make sense, although he's already denied interest in the job. But again, this is 7 years away, was Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, who has expressed interest in jumping to a position in the NFL. This was before he became commissioner of the NBA. It doesn't seem like a smart move for a guy who's already in a position that of a market and of a league who is rapidly growing and could one day, depending on who you ask, replace the NFL as the most popular sport. So I don't think it's a smart move for him. However, in a short-sighted, grand scheme of things, to jump to currently the most popular sport might be especially when they see what Goodell's making. I mean, he's making $40 million a year. I don't think Silver's making that kind of money. So.
No.
But Silver has had a great impact on the game, taking over for Stern in 2014. He knows how to build a global brand and maintain a global brand, and maybe he would be a good candidate to expand NFL markets overseas in some of the areas where it's a little lacking, like Asian markets. He could build on the European market. And I don't know, he'd be an interesting candidate. I don't think he would take the job unless 8 years down the line the NBA just kind of hits a plateau.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a weird candidate for the commissioner would be Dwayne Johnson.
Please don't tell me that's legitimate.
I think it's kind of a spoof one, but I don't know. I with his expertise of wrestling,
I could see Vince McMahon being. If you told me Vince McMahon, I would be more apt to listen to you, but not Dwayne Johnson. No offense to him. I mean, I understand his wrestling, but he wasn't. He was a big enough superstar. He probably wrote his own story, but I don't think he was really involved in the day-to-day. Being a commissioner of a sports franchise or an entertainment franchise. Which let's face it, sports is business and entertainment. So The Rock doesn't really make sense in that point. I think you're right. It's probably more of a spoof.
Yeah.
I would hope it's more of a spoof.
Yeah.
But another guy on my list actually was Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I have that as well, too. Another guy on my list is Jerry Jones. I think that's more of a spoof as well.
Jerry would have to give up his team, and I can't see him doing that. I mean, I guess you could. I mean, I guess he could sell the team. He can't sell the team to his kids. He'd have to sell the team to a different investor, and I just can't see him being commissioner. How old is he? He's in his 80s, isn't he?
He's pretty close.
I can't see them taking on. I mean, if he's not, he's going to be in his 80s in 2024.
Yes.
So I can't see him taking on. I can't see the NFL giving him that position in his 80s.
No.
So not that it's a spoof. I just think that it's not
feasible.
It's not realistic for all parties. Jerry'd have a hard time giving up the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And I think the NFL would have a hard time putting an 80-something-year-old man in their position.
Yeah.
The logical choice that I see everywhere is Jeff Pash, who's VP of the NFL right now. Basically, he is what Goodell was to Tagliabue.
Yeah, I see that's a very likely candidate.
He negotiated.
He's in line, yeah.
Yeah, he played a role in negotiating the 2011 CBA. Pretty much day-to-day already knows what it takes to be a commissioner of the league. So,
yeah.
The only question, I think, is if Goodell's tenure still continues to be mired by controversy and/or headbutting with the owners. I mean, this guy is essentially Goodell's right-hand man. So
that I could see.
I could see that being like a Trump situation where the logical step would just to go in completely a different. And that's where The Rock might come in.
Yeah.
That's where Vince McMahon. I think Vince McMahon makes a lot of sense.
No, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
The NFL is entertainment. The NFL is, let's see, it's a business, it's entertainment, and it's sports in that order. Don't get it twisted. Any sports fan who's not aware of these things is delusional. The NFL is a business, it's entertainment, and it's sports in that order.
They're there to make money.
And that is exactly what, in a nutshell, the WWE is.
Yeah, both. Yes,
it's a business, entertainment, wrestling. It's a soap opera. It's a sports soap opera.
Very true.
And that's essentially kind of because of the 24/7 news cycle and because of what we experience with Thursday night football, with Sunday night football, with Monday night football. Basically, football almost 50% of our week, and could be more.
Could be more.
We could be looking at Friday and Saturday football.
Yeah.
We could be looking at over 50% of our week filled with football games. So it becomes a soap opera to us.
Yeah.
It becomes a soap opera to sports fans. So who better to really take control than Vince McMahon and maybe a combination of the Fertittas?
That'd be very interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Something like that would be an interesting. Overall, I think it's going to end up being Pash, but I think it's nice to dream of 7 years down the line who may be, looking at these situations. Who we may be looking at as a new commissioner.
Yeah.
You don't really think about that because realistically, I never really thought Goodell was really old enough to step down at this point. So I'm surprised that after signing this contract, we're talking about 7 years down the line, they're already telling us that it's his last one. So
yeah,
it was an interesting thing, and it's nice to look at. Obviously, it's, who knows if the Vegas Squares podcast will be here in 7 years, but it'd be like something to look at, 7 years from now. Let's see.
It's like opening up a time capsule.
Yeah, well, we'll bury that one in the backyard underneath the pool.
Yeah.
And we'll be like, all right, well, who are our predictions for NFL commissioner? We got to tear up this whole pool to find out. But
rebuild it.
So, yeah, that's an interesting, just a little kind of a fantasy to look down the line and see what's going on. But what did we do? We did some Marvin Lewis. We did some Rodgers.
Yeah.
We got Goodell. Speaking of owners, you talked about Jerry Jones. And let's talk about Richardson and his alleged misconduct. And now he has come out and said he is going to sell the Panthers after the 2011 season.
2011?
Excuse me. I had 2011 on the brain for the collective bargaining agreement. The 2017 season, sorry.
Yeah, he came out yesterday and released that. And
This is back to the. I don't want to get too political, but this is back to the Donald Sterling things. It's, I guess I don't really understand if the principal ownership of the NFL is the 32 owners. And don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning the misconduct if it is made out to be true. It's just allegations right now, and the NFL's investigating. But this guy owns his own franchise, and I believe he owns the majority of it. 48%, if I'm not mistaken.
Roughly around there. He started off, he bought them as an expansion franchise in 95. He's 81 right now.
Right.
They are projected the 21st most valuable NFL franchise with a $2.3 billion valuation, according to Forbes.
But I guess my point is that, okay, even if right now he's in allegations, and basically by admitting he's going to sell the team, I feel like he's almost
guilty
admitting to it. But, take you, for example. If you owned, Walmart. If you own Walmart and you had allegations of misconduct, and their first thoughts are, you need to sell this company, it's my company.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It's ultimately your choice.
Right. So I guess, I don't know, there must be some checks and balance system in place where, because it happened in the NBA, they forced Donald Sterling to sell his team, and he walked away with $2 billion.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe my theory is he's decided I'm 81, it's time to get out, and I'm going to make $2.3 billion for all the wrong I allegedly did.
Yeah. Or maybe he just wants to sell it. Maybe he's not guilty and just doesn't want to affect the team. So,
do you think maybe he stirred this up to an attempt to get rid of the team?
Possibly. It could be a publicity stunt. So,
I don't know. It just seems like with Donald Sterling, with the Roy Moore situation in Alabama, and the Franken situation, all the way up to the Trump situation, it seems like no one needs actual factual proof to get these things done. Because, look, like I said, I don't want to get too political here, but the Roy Moore situation, he announced he was rerunning for the office. All these, allegations came out that he was misconduct against several different accusers. The election happens, he loses. All of a sudden, the accusers are nowhere to be found. Mm-hmm. So you just make up a bunch of scandals or stories, get what you want, and then they all go away? What? I don't understand, because it seems like that seems to be the case nowadays with a lot of situations. We're sitting here with Franken. Franken admitted to the misconduct and has said he stepped down. He hasn't stepped down yet. But you have those situations where he's been admitted, and many people still defend or back him. But then you have Trump, who has nothing but allegations, and Roy Moore, who has nothing but allegations. Mm-hmm. And yet here the left sits there and says, you need to go, he needs to go, we need to impeach. It's like, you have nothing to prove. And again, we have nothing to prove on Jerry Richardson right now. That could change over time. But basically, Richardson, by coming out and saying, I'm going to sell the team, almost feels like he's setting this up to me.
It could be. I mean,
why wouldn't you? You're 81 years old. The day-to-day operations of an NFL franchise, I know you have people in place, but you still have to be involved.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the extent of Jerry Jones' involvement, but you're still involved in day-to-day. The guy's 81 years old, and he can get $2.3 billion for his share of the Panthers.
Yeah.
Take it and run. I think this is a setup.
I lean towards the same way as well. Who do you think would be a potential buyer for this?
I hope it's not Diddy. That's just the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. Oh, my God. And the thing is okay, so look at this. So you've got Richardson selling his team because of misconduct in the workplace. And you're talking about a guy who wants to buy the team who made music videos of misconduct to women. Mm-hmm. It's his culture. Don't get me wrong. I love hip-hop. And I grew up on hip-hop, and I grew up on Diddy and Bad Boy and Death Row and blah, blah, blah. But what image are we setting when we're kicking out a guy who potentially had misconduct to a guy who is visually misconducting women all the time? And his whole culture is about misconduct to women, drug culture, accepting and embracing rape culture. How does that look when we're making Richardson sell the team, which I'm fine with, to then letting someone who embraces all of those issues that all the left has been fighting because he's black? It's got to be because he's black. And I'll say it.
Yeah.
If you're white, you don't get away with this stuff. But if you're black and you appropriate rape culture, sex culture, drug culture on music videos, don't get me wrong, he was in the era of music videos. You've seen the music videos.
Yeah.
You don't tell me that that's not going on in his real life.
If it's not, that'd be insane.
It'd be insane if he fake portrayed all of that things. Don't get me wrong. When I grew up, I wanted to be, rolling in money, rolling in a Benz with some bitches around my arms. Every kid, who grew up listening to hip hop wanted to do that. But don't get me wrong, and don't fake me out by thinking that they weren't doing that in their real life.
No.
So, and a guy who is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look it up. I'm pretty sure P. Diddy went on trial for murder. I'll have to look that up real quick. Diddy murder trial. I'm pretty sure he had a murder charge. I'm pretty sure he beat it, but the fact of the matter is
yeah, it says one of 50 Cent's pal's murder. He was named in trial.
Yeah, so I can't imagine Diddy being a legitimate candidate to the other 31 owners for purchasing this team.
I don't see it being impossible. Two other names that I see mentioned in this situation are Stephen Curry and Oprah.
Okay, fine.
I think it's just random at this time. And
does Curry have enough, or are we talking about putting him at a forefront of an investment team?
Probably an investment team.
He's not going to be present during the season because basketball season runs from October to June.
Yeah.
And his team's good, so they'll be there in June. So if you're looking at him as a face, I guess, but he doesn't really make sense. Oprah, okay, fine. If she wants to own a team, fine, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't see any of those three being likely candidates.
I don't have a problem with a minority person, who has the money to put up.
Absolutely, I don't either.
To buy the team, that's fine. But I'm just telling you, Oprah's fine, but Diddy, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I'm curious to hear people's thoughts on that. If you're listening to this podcast, hit us up on Twitter at Vegas Squares, or hit us up on Facebook, Vegas Squares. Facebook.com/Vegas Squares. Tell us what you think, because I'm sure there's going to be a polarizing topic there, and I'll get some few racist chants or whatever. But blah blah blah. But it's not about the racism thing. It's just the fact that I just don't think P. Diddy or Diddy, whatever the hell he calls himself, Papa Diddy Panther now. That'll be his new name.
Yeah. The artist normally known as P. Diddy.
The Panthers owner, formerly known as Diddy.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's not a logical candidate to me. Steph Curry's not a logical candidate to me. Although I don't have a problem with him. He's not a person who creates negative spotlight. So if they can put a team together, that's fine.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens the next month or so with this building up.
Well, and you have the Diddy situation where he's like, I'm going to buy the team and I'm going to sign Kaepernick. So you're going to purchase a $2.3 billion team just so you can sign Kaepernick, so you think you ended the injustice, quote unquote, that's been happening to Colin for a year?
Kudos for you, I guess.
Yeah, whatever. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. So enjoy that. So, but whatever. That's their choice. They spend billions of dollars. They can do whatever they want to the team. But speaking of an expansion team that existed in 1996, Jacksonville, or Saxonville as they like to call themselves now.
Yeah.
What do we make of them? I mean, what are they, 10-4?
They are 10.
I think I'm going to win that. I think I'm going to win that division bet. So I appreciate that free money.
I do lean towards that as well. I don't see Tennessee beating the Rams this week coming up.
No, and they lost to San Francisco this week. So I think they're 8-6.
8-6, yeah. So
8-6, 10-4.
They have to go.
I think they play Jacksonville.
Yeah, they played them last.
So they have to go perfect, and Jacksonville would have to lose
this week.
So I believe, who does Jacksonville play this week? I have to look it up. But I mean, Blake Bortles. I had a conversation at work the other day with this guy. He says, I would rather have Eli Manning on my team than Blake Bortles right now. And I told him he was absolutely insane.
That is very insane.
And I know that my stance with being a UCF alum, obviously, is a Blake Bortles apologist, but they got San Francisco, so they got Garoppolo this week.
Oh, okay.
My stance as a Blake Bortles fanboy and UCF alum may be tilted a little bit, but when you tell me Eli Manning, I got to be crazy.
No,
I could see Alex Smith next year if he becomes on the market. I could see you trying to take an Alex Smith with that defense and that running game.
Possibly.
But right now, Blake Bortles in a contract year hasn't done anything to tell you that he doesn't belong as a starter next year.
No, I think he's a good fit with this team. He's not like a standout stud or anything, but he does what he has to do and gets the job done.
Yeah, I mean, he's a game manager at this point.
Yeah.
Except for the times that he throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's averaging 300 yards over his last 3 games. 301 to be exact.
Yeah, who would have thought we'd be talking about Blake Bortles with those stats?
I mean, they're getting a benefit by being in a division with no Andrew Luck, no Deshaun Watson, and Marcus Mariota, who, let's face it, is not very good.
No, he's very weak.
So they are getting the benefit of having that situation, but still, I mean, you can only play what's in front of you. So Leonard Fournette didn't play last night or yesterday, and they still put up 45, I think. What do you make of Clowney's remarks? Basically calling Blake Bortles trash. If anybody's trash in that conversation, it's been Jadeveon Clowney since being the number 1 overall pick, 3 years ago. How about you step up and have a damn play?
No.
Because if I'm not mistaken, you just got beat by 38 fucking points. So enjoy that ass kicking.
No, Clowney is a joke in my mind.
Yeah, has he been a bust?
I say a very big bust.
I mean, when he's not on the field, when he's on the field with Watt, they're pretty scary, but neither of them can stay on the field, and when they're not on the field with each other, Watt's a terrific player, and Jadeveon Clowney is just not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think Clowney needs to shut his mouth, but he's one of the few guys I would not say that to his face.
Yeah. No, Clowney in my mind is, I would say, an average player with potential to be a greater player if Watt's on his side, but...
Yeah, but Blake Bortles, I mean, let's call it the AFC is the better of the 2 conferences, in my opinion.
Yes.
At the top. From top to bottom, I think the NFC's got more teams.
By far.
I think the AFC's got New England, Pittsburgh, and I think I'm ready to call Jacksonville a legitimate contender. However, they've got to go into one or possibly both of those arenas. And I don't think they're going to come out of... They might come out of one, but I don't think they're going to come out of both.
Yes. In my mind, I'm leaning towards the same. I think they're going to win at least 1 playoff game, maybe 2. They might keep a tight game in the AFC Championship if they do make it there. But I don't see them coming out alive.
Yeah, if they've got to go to Foxborough, I can't see them winning that game.
They might lose by a field goal or touchdown or something, but I don't see them getting blown out by like 20 or something like people would have projected earlier in this year.
I'd like to see Pittsburgh lose a game, but their remaining schedule is Houston and Cleveland, so let's call that what it is. They're going to be 13-3.
I don't know. Cleveland's got a chance.
Yeah. Okay, got a chance against who?
They have a chance to get
the only
parade.
team in Pittsburgh they could beat at football is the Pirates.
Yeah, I would say the Penguins have a shot against them.
I think the Penguins would beat them at football. I'm trying to look at the where's Jacksonville? I'm trying to look at the rest of their schedule. They got San Francisco, and then they have Tennessee. So they could effectively be what do we say? 12-4.
12-4 at the best. 10-6 at the worst.
When you looked at this Jacksonville team, nothing about this team screamed 12-4.
No. 10-6 was a possibility in my mind.
Really? You think so?
But a very long shot.
It's just, that defense is fantastic. I mean, Jalen Ramsey has stepped up and become a leader. Calais Campbell on the line has been fantastic. A.J. Bouye from UCF has been a big addition for them.
In my mind, they have a top 5, maybe 3 defense in the league.
Oh, they're a top 3 defense, absolutely.
And with Blake Bortles trying to limit his mistakes, their offense is pretty damn good. So,
yeah, if he plays ability to keep them in a game, their defense is going to do the work. And Leonard Fournette is going to be relied on a lot this postseason. So I'm okay with him sitting out. I would be okay with him sitting out the next. He's probably going to sit out Week 17 if they beat San Francisco. That's just a fact, I would imagine, because they have nothing to play for against Tennessee.
Oh, unless if they have a shot to get a first-round bye, maybe.
Well, yeah, if somehow Pittsburgh loses to Houston or New England loses, who do they play?
New England plays Buffalo this week.
They got Buffalo, and then they have the Jets the last week of the season, I think. So if somehow New England loses both of their games, which would be absurd. Yeah. They're, 11-3 now, so they would be 11-5.
Same with Pittsburgh if they went out.
Well, Pittsburgh's probably going to win out with Houston and Cleveland.
Yeah.
They could win out in their sleep, I think.
Probably.
But, so if they have a shot at the end, I think they'll still sit Fournette, but play the rest of their starters. Uh-huh. And if Fournette has 2 to 3 weeks off and gets healthy, and is it ready in time for playoffs, that's a dangerous weapon for them.
You're going to see a lot of interesting football in the playoffs.
I'm excited. I'm excited when, I'm excited for Jacksonville. Obviously, if New England doesn't go to the Super Bowl, I'm rooting for Jacksonville for obvious reasons.
Yes.
They got 2 UCF guys that I'll be cheering for. On the NFC side, it's like I said, it's wide open from top to bottom.
Yeah, even teams in the hunt still could be dangerous in the playoffs.
Who's still in the hunt in the NFC? Let's take a look.
You have Dallas, you have Seattle, you have Detroit, you have Atlanta. Carolina's pretty much locked up a wild card spot at the situation if they don't win the division.
Well, yeah, but they still have, Tampa Bay and New Orleans left?
Yeah.
Or Atlanta?
One of those two at that.
They got Tampa Bay and Atlanta. So Atlanta will be fighting at the end. Yeah, Carolina's probably, with 1 win, is locked up a seed, but you never know.
No, they pretty much locked up a seed unless if mayhem happens in the NFC.
Well, if they go 10-6,
they'd be tied. It could be potentially like a 5-way tie for a while.
Yeah, I don't know what all the tiebreakers are, but Atlanta's got Tampa Bay and New Orleans left.
I know if it's 2 teams added.
Oh, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Carolina. So
yeah, if there's 2 teams fighting for a wild card spot, it's head-to-head is the first if they played each other. Then it's like opponents.
Well, Atlanta can still go 11-5.
Yeah,
they're not out of the division yet. New Orleans has Atlanta and Tampa Bay. So if New Orleans goes 10-6 and Atlanta wins out, they could go 11-5. We're probably going to see 3 NFC South teams. They're the best division. We know that.
I have no doubt. Yeah.
But Detroit, who does Detroit have left? They've got Cincinnati and Green Bay.
Yeah.
So they got 2 teams with really nothing to play for at this point. So they could be 10-6.
They could be 10-6, but
Seattle's got Dallas, who is getting Zeke back, and Arizona, who has nothing to play for.
Dallas is in that hunt too. So
yeah, so that's going to be an elimination game. Yeah. So you're looking at an elimination game. Detroit's the sneaky team there. Detroit doesn't have to face any of the people still left in the playoffs.
Yes.
So at 10-6, I don't know what the tiebreakers would be. Did Detroit lose to Carolina or Atlanta?
Both.
They lost to both of them?
Yes.
Oh, and then they're in a tough spot.
Yes. Best situation happens is there's a 4-way tie at 10-6, and we sneak in somehow.
The best situation is Atlanta loses to both Carolina.
Atlanta loses out pretty much.
Well,
dream situation, but
yeah,
or if they go 9-7.
Yeah, and just win the games in front of you, Lions, and
dream.
Everything should take care of itself. To be honest with you, because if Carolina and New Orleans make it, that means Atlanta's losing.
Yes.
And then did Detroit and Seattle play this year?
No.
So,
but upon common opponents, I think Detroit's got the better hand in that.
Okay, so Detroit wins out.
I know we do with Dallas.
You beat Dallas?
No.
Oh, common opponents.
Yes.
Okay, so Detroit wins out. Seattle and Dallas effectively, one of them is going to eliminate the other.
Yeah. We're actually rooting for Dallas in that situation.
Okay, so you're rooting for Dallas. Because, wow, okay, so there's a little bit of a shakeup. I mean, Philadelphia, Minnesota are going to take the byes, more than likely.
I don't think LA is going to get one. Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean,
they'll get the 3 seed.
Philly's got Oakland and Dallas. If they beat Oakland, they're 13-3, and they're 13-2, and they've locked up a bye because LA's 10-4, New Orleans is 10-4. Minnesota has Green Bay and Chicago.
Yeah,
two teams with nothing to play for, so they'll be 13-3, or at worst 12-4, and they beat the Rams.
Yes.
those two have essentially locked up bye weeks.
That's like 99.9% sure both of them have locked up byes.
So if you're LA, and you're the 3 seed more than likely, because they have They have Tennessee and Arizona, Tennessee and San Francisco left.
Yeah.
Who do you want to see in that 6 seed? You have Atlanta, Carolina, maybe New Orleans, probably going to win the division.
Honestly, probably Detroit.
Detroit, Seattle, and Dallas.
I would say probably Detroit.
I mean, you get LA at home, you get Seattle at home, who they beat you at home.
Yeah.
But you beat them clearly on the road, and you're playing better football right now.
Destroyed them on the road.
Dallas is getting their 3 guys back who are healthy.
Yeah.
And Zeke Elliott, who has had 6 weeks off, their left tackle, and Sean Lee. I think, you're right. I think Detroit or Atlanta is the team you want to see.
I would say Detroit by far, but
yeah,
Detroit's kind of beat down by injuries right now as well, too. A lot of offensive linemen, defensive backs are not 100% and still playing.
There's Cleveland, 0-14.
Hey, at least it's not the Lions.
I haven't seen the William Hill prop this year. Is it still on there?
They probably took it off the window now.
I would just juice it to make people pay. People pay big bucks for little money.
I did see it at the beginning of the year. If any team will go on 16 or 16-0 and 19-0, I did see those.
I saw the 19-0 for the
Patriots.
Yeah. I guess they don't have the bunch of wusses. To win Pro Football Championship, the Patriots are the favorite. Steelers 5-1, 6-1 the Vikings, 8.5-1 the Eagles, Falcons 10-1. What are your Lions at? 150-1, and they can still make the playoffs with 2 easy games. I think that's a sprinkle right there.
You need a lot of work too, though. You'll probably get them 100-1 if they make the playoffs against the Rams, anyhow.
But if you think they can make the playoffs and you get 100-1, you might as well sprinkle something on 150-1.
They need some situations to happen too, besides the money out.
That's the same with the Bills right now. The Bills are in the playoffs if it ended today, and they're 150-1. The Packers, you can still get them at 100-1. That can't. I thought they were officially eliminated. No.
Some crazy reasons, like if extreme mayhem happens, it's like Tampa Bay last
year. Technically they're not eliminated.
Yeah.
Technically, Detroit could lose 2 games.
Yes.
Seattle could lose 2 games. Dallas would lose, then effectively 1.
Yeah.
Atlanta can lose out.
Yeah.
And then at 9-7, is it Dallas or Green Bay?
It would be Green Bay, I think.
I guess it would have to be, right?
Yeah.
So then I guess that brings me back to, does Rodgers keep playing?
Well, I think it depends what Atlanta does today.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
I think if Atlanta wins, they're officially eliminated from playoff contention.
Oh, okay, so maybe we'll have that conversation on Thursday. We're going to have a special guest on Thursday as well, joining us in the studio, potentially a new co-host. a new additional co-host. So
It should be definitely interesting.
yeah, nothing wrong with 3 mics flicking on.
Yeah.
More idiocracy coming out of these
Mayhem.
big black holes. Okay, well, oh yeah, you're right. Falcons win will mean the end for Packers playoff hopes.
Yeah.
So go Bucks, I guess. I love the chaos.
Definitely rooting for Tampa today.
So
Don't let me down, Jameis.
let's eat that W. What a fucking moron. I'm going to eat that win. Eat that win. So let's get into Super Bowl talk. Obviously, we know in the AFC, we believe New England,
Yes.
Pittsburgh are legitimate Super Bowl contenders.
Yes.
And they showed that yesterday.
Jacksonville, I would put in that potential talk yesterday.
Jacksonville is on the cusp. Let's talk about Kansas City. Kansas City has had a hell of a season, both ways.
Yes. They're like
But I think they're finally getting healthy now, and their defense is coming back, and they had a huge win against Kansas City, which effectively gave them the division,
Yes.
with the Raiders losing. Are they legitimate Super Bowl contenders again? I feel like I don't really want to. If I'm New England, I don't really want to play them.
I'd rather play Kansas City than Jacksonville in my mind.
Really? You think
Yes.
so? I think
Yes.
you don't think KC has more weapons and a better quarterback?
I think Jacksonville's got the better defense.
I think if they're healthy, I think they have an equal defense. No?
Nah. No, I think Jacksonville is.
I think statistically
Slightly better.
you're right, but in terms of experience, I don't know if that's
Experience, no. They're about equal, but playability, in my mind, Jacksonville's got the better defense.
See, I still think I would put Kansas City as a legitimate Super Bowl contender, even at, what are they, 8-6 right now?
Yes.
They are, what, the 4th seed? Because they're leading the division?
They're the 4th seed because they're leading the division, yes.
So, yeah, I mean, in my mind, if the season ended today, they'd play Tennessee, which I think they could beat easily.
Yes.
And then they would probably go to New England in a divisional game, and I think that's a tough game for New England.
I think New England, as long as they could stop the run.
I feel like Buffalo could beat Jacksonville in a wild card matchup.
I think they could keep it close, but I think Jacksonville's the better team.
I'm not saying if they played 10 games, I'd say Jacksonville would probably win 8 or 9 of them. But I'm saying, that's all you need is a chance.
Yeah.
I think Baltimore could beat Jacksonville.
Like we say, any given Sunday, pretty much any team could beat any
Except
team.
for Cleveland.
Except for Cleveland and maybe I would even consider Cincinnati a team that could beat most teams.
Any given Sunday in the NFL, I think that the only team that can't
Is Cleveland.
really win is Cleveland. Cleveland needs miracles. When they pulled out, who did they beat last year? San Francisco or somebody? No, they beat the Chargers.
They beat the Chargers.
They beat the Chargers last year.
That's why I thought they were going to beat the Chargers this year. They covered. They did cover.
They did cover. You're right.
Hey, Detroit tried to give them a win.
I think Kansas City, they're 8-6 right now. They got a Miami team with, I believe, nothing left to play for, and a Denver team who's just given up. Does Miami have anything left to play for? Can they make the playoffs?
They still can.
Can they?
It would take a very long shot, but it's about the same stats of Cleveland making the playoffs. What was that, 6 weeks ago? 1 in 13 billion or something.
I don't remember.
Saying there's a chance.
So there's officially 10 teams left that could realistically make the playoffs, but
realistically it's down to
7 or 8. I don't think Chargers can make the playoffs, can they?
They can, but they probably won't.
Well, they did beat Buffalo, so I guess if
that situation happened, then
what's Baltimore got left? Indianapolis, which should be a win.
I see Baltimore getting into the playoffs.
That's the team that's probably going to make it out of the 3 of them. Tennessee's got Jacksonville and the Rams, so they could potentially be 8-8, and all Baltimore would need would be 1 win at that point.
Yeah.
The Chargers and Baltimore, did they play each other?
I don't believe so.
No. So what would they have? What did you say? It was head-to-head,
Division,
divisions,
and then conference.
Oh, it's like opponents then conference? Oh, I thought it'd be conference record first. Because their conference record is... LA's conference record is what? 1-2, 0-3, 2-3, 2-4, 2-5, 3-5, 4-5. 4-6, so not great, but they could finish 6-6, I guess. So I don't know. It's a lot to play around with. I'll let the guys who crunch the numbers fuck with all that, but I don't know. I still think going back to Kansas City, I think Kansas City is a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
It is conference before Common Games.
I would imagine it'd be conference. Yeah, Common Games is kind of hard to do because schedule makers control that.
Common Games has to be a minimum 4 as well.
Oh, okay.
And then the ones after that would be strength of victory, strength of schedule.
See, I don't like those as tiebreakers. Those aren't very fair because
that should be like towards the bottom.
Well, the thing is, they're set by the league.
And if it comes down to it, could be a coin toss.
That's my favorite. Coin toss. All right, who's gonna make the playoffs? Ding! What if it lands right in the middle?
Yeah.
What if it lands like half, like
the list of all 11 is.
Do you remember like How I Met Your Mother, the Blitz? Then he flips the quarter and it lands. He's like, I had to try it.
The gentleman.
The gentleman. Yeah, exactly. So.
First is head to head. Next is best win-loss tie percentage in games played within the conference. Then Common Games minimum 4. Strength of victory, strength of schedule. Best combined ranking among conference teams in points scored and points allowed. Best combined ranking among all teams in points scored and points allowed.
I think after conference record, they should just go to playoff game, play-in game. Fuck it, make them play more games.
That would be like perfect.
Or put them on there. You got a 10-minute period. Whoever gets the most in a 10-minute period, 7-on-7.
Be like a Royal Rumble.
I'm just saying something to put more on the field. They want more games. Yeah. Put playing games in there.
Yeah, I like it.
Especially as the more and more they're taking it away from tackle football to touch football. So they can play more now.
I touch you, you're down.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, so that's my thought. Back to the thing. I don't want to play Kansas City if I don't have to. So that's a legitimate Super Bowl contender in my mind. So, you got any plans this week before we do our next podcast on Thursday?
Any plans? I've got a little poker tournament with the guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I know you guys are going to the hockey game against the Bolts.
Yeah, our producer right now is at home in bed sleeping, so she, way to be a part.
Yeah. Team player.
I know that they had that Pucks for Paws event at the City National Arena today. It looks like people are adopting dogs, so that's a pretty cool.
That's sweet, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought about going to that, but I figured this was more important to do, and I'd come home with a dog, and that's just not good for anybody.
No.
We already have 2.
It'd be a lose-lose-lose situation.
Yeah, we already have 2.
There'd be more shit peeing around the house. Yeah. The other 2 dogs already do that enough. And
well, the old lady said the next thing we bring home should be a kid, not a dog, so
yeah.
I think coming home with a Pomeranian is probably not the smartest idea. So, anyways, well, thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Vegas Squares. You can catch us on all our social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Our videos are on YouTube and also the website, vegassquares.com. There's a lot of places to reach us. If you are at the hockey game in Vegas, Section 208, we will be there. Actually, no, we sold our seats and we bought better seats. So we are actually in Section 13 for on Tuesday. So come say hello. And that's about going to wrap up this episode of the Vegas Squares. And we thank you for tuning in. And keep up with us on Twitter. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.